So just pick some times that are good for you. Most of the meetings are good for me. I got a great special order carrying in the name on Wednesday.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Thursday, July 14th, 2022, 7:05 p.m. I apologize for being 5 minutes in arrears, but we're going to wrap this meeting fast tonight. Not that anybody's going to be shortchanged, but I just have a good feeling about this. We are. Is there a pastor in the house? Hearing none, let's just rise for education. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together to do the business of the city. We pray that it's done in goodwill and good faith, that we all do our best and most honorable efforts to further the cause of this city. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And let's do a roll call. Zone 1.
Present.
Zone 2. Here. Zone 3. Sir. And Zone 4 Commissioner or Vice Mayor Connell is not here this evening. Mayor is present, as well as the city administrator and city attorney. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move resolution 2022-01 off the table. It's not in your minutes, it was done back in March.
Oh, resolution 2022. We have an actual resolution.
Yes.
Yes, it was put on the table, it's the resolution to continue the life of the parks and playground committee through the end of the construction of Melissa. You recall it was tabled, and now Commissioner Edgar is asking to be untabled. I'm not sure that's the right word, be taken off the table. And
Take it up again.
take
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Motions to
Roger, I heard you say 2022-01, and I.
That was, we got an issue with our resolution numbers. 2022-01 was for the parks, 2022-02 was for the ethics requirement. And then those numbers were repeated again in June with resolutions that covered some other issues.
I guess what I'm asking you is what are we referring to?
It's the one that,
Is it in the
Commissioner
comp?
no,
Okay,
it was in the March packet.
okay. So it's not part of this agenda.
No. That's why it's an addition.
That's why.
It's an addition.
Oh, you're adding it?
Yes.
He would like to add it to the agenda by untabling it. Not sure if that fits appropriately during additions and deletions. It doesn't much matter, does it?
No, it doesn't much matter, but it's not something that can be added without the second of the motion passes. Otherwise, it stays on the table.
Okay, well, we'll just do it now. The motion from Commissioner Eckert is to bring back from the table resolution 2022-01.
Which is what, because I have no documentation to
It's the one that changed the Parks and Recreation to the Melissa Park Committee and to expire December 31st, 2022.
Okay.
I'm not sure what all the details, I didn't bring a copy of it with me with all the details that were in them.
I would run to the end of the construction period, which probably be a little later, but, you recall the existence of the Parks Playground equipment was authorized up to June or July, rather, and there was no, change to that resolution, and so it has now expired. What, Commissioner Eckert is suggesting is the order, the resolution, it was prepared, put on the table, will continue the life of the Parks Playground Committee to the end of Melissa construction or
Melissa Park.
some point. Yes. So, and that was tabled, so Parks and Playground has ceased to exist. And really the question is, do you want to adopt the resolution first of all, we'll take it to the table, second of all, then do you want to adopt it? If you did, then Parks and Playground would be reactivated. That's my opinion, and will continue to exist until that point.
Again, we have a motion to take up resolution 2022-01 from the table. Do we have a second for that motion? I'm not hearing one either, but I want to ask a question.
Gotta go through the process.
Of course. Hearing none, motion dies for lack of a second. Are there any other additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? We have before us minutes of the Thursday, June 9th meeting. Are there any changes or recommendations for those minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Eckert, second from Commissioner Rutledge to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Presentations to the commission. We have a request, or item 6A. Mr. Administrator, would you like to introduce this?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, this is a request from the Woods HOA. They asked that they be put on a list and have any rental fees for the use of Hopkins Hall be waived, as others, nonprofits within the city have also waived. And this is up to your discretion, this is whether you want to approve. It would basically put them on a carte blanche list, for use of the Hopkins Hall without the use of, you still have to pay a deposit for key and cleaning fee if you do not clean the property. The fee itself is waived.
I'd like to start the discussion if you don't mind. I think there's a lot of other options that are available to the Woods, such as the conference room downstairs, et cetera. I think that might be a more appropriate avenue to travel than to leave the fees. I'm not really.
Well, with the number of residents that they've had, some of their meetings, they might be better to use the facilities up here.
The chambers.
If they use City Hall.
Is there a representative here from the association? Would you like to address us or talk to us or answer any questions, or do you want to just hear what we have to say?
I will listen to discussion.
Okay, fair enough. Well, if you'd like to, feel free.
And we appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree with Commissioner Rutledge. I think the facilities here are a little less formal, in that, we do try and keep Hopkins Hall kind of pristine and historic. And we've protected that over the years. I think of some examples there, but don't need to list people off. We've protected that over the years, protected that facility. And I think given a good meeting place like this room or the conference room downstairs, depending on the size of your group, we'd be happy to make these available to you. I don't think there is any fee for the use of these facilities at all, so there would be no need for a waiver of that fee. I'm not hearing a motion to waive the fees, although this would be an appropriate time if anybody wants to make that motion.
Again, what fees are they being charged besides the key deposit and cleaning deposit?
Yeah, it's a refundable key deposit, and the cleaning deposit is also refundable if it's in good shape and leak. We do not charge any fees, refundable or not, for the key or cleaning of this particular building, either upstairs or downstairs. We have clean people do it for us.
So that's the same thing that we charge any other organization in town that wants to do.
The building here?
Hopkins.
Hopkins Hall is a $400 fee.
Yeah, Hopkins Hall is 400.
Yeah, but for city organizations, I think we waived it.
We do have a waiver.
Small list,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what they're seeking to become part of that list.
That's what they like to be on that list. They don't need to do that. Again, this building, there is no list because there is no fee.
My other thought would be, and hang on just a minute, is that if you're looking for a more formal type thing, it's like something to have your annual party or something like that, I certainly think we might consider waiving fees for an annual thing, but for a monthly meeting kind of thing, it's not what we're looking for that building to be used for. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that seem appropriate, or is that frustrating?
It's quarterly.
Quarterly?
Their meetings with.
Generally, yeah, quarterly. Give or take. But no, I understand the position, and if there are other options, that are, cost effective and appropriate, we appreciate that consideration as well.
We do want y'all to have a place. We don't want to put y'all on the street corner at all.
Most cost effective place would be using City Hall.
Either this room or the conference, the large conference room downstairs.
They wouldn't fit in the conference room downstairs.
Okay, that I don't know, but, okay. So this would probably be your best space then.
But if that is something the commission supports, I can get with, administrator, have it offline and figure out a plan.
I'm hearing support for that, for their
Yeah,
ability to
make
use
all the
this.
arrangements through the city administrator.
Yeah, obviously, it's not we do have meetings about the commission and DLDRC, but it's not one of the regular scheduled meetings, we'll be happy to put them in. We do have one other group that uses the summary alert, and that's the West Volusia South Club. And they are in this building, in this area, but that's.
Between four groups, there should be enough mass,
Very
especially if you squeeze in a quarter group.
Very little chance to comment.
I'm sure Dominic has a calendar of all the.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cook.
And go, 792 Oak Tree Lane. Good evening. I just started out by saying, I remember when the Crafty Ladies used to meet in Hopkins Hall. Everybody was happy, they were doing their thing and everything else. Then all of a sudden, everything changed with Hopkins Hall, and they're gonna charge for this. And I could not believe when I heard they said, oh no, they're gonna charge the Crafty Ladies to use Hopkins Hall. I said, whoa. Well, I had a little discussion about it then, so it didn't work. So my thing is, Hopkins Hall, in the first place is, this HOM, the home is a private organization. Has nothing to do with the town whatsoever. And I think that it As it is, I think if they want to have and use Hopkins Hall, perfectly all right, pay for it. But do not, they're a private corporation, they're a private organization. We should not that we don't want to help the organization, but that's not right, because there's other places, I know of 3 places that went to another place for a dinner or whatever it was, because Hopkins Halls was high and they couldn't afford it and everything else. They lived in that. So my thing is, I think it's completely wrong. My thing is, if they want to have a party or whatever it is, there's other halls to be able to use. And I don't think that we should open City Hall for a private concern. Thank you.
Ms. LaSissa,
Thank you. This is at 170 West
could
Craig,
you pull the mic toward you a little more? Thank you.
170 West Craig Avenue, Lake County. I would like to be considered the fact that, well, I have nothing against the HOA. I didn't think they were a nonprofit. Are they a 501c3? I don't think so.
That was a private organization.
It's a kind of a special thing. HOAs, I do believe, are nonprofit. By nature, they're not 501c3, but they're nonprofit by nature. They're kind of a separate function under the city, under the state government.
The nonprofit numbers from 1 through 19, like the American Legions of 19 are not a 3, but we still get the same recognition.
I would like you to consider the fact that while this HOA is basically the only HOA we're aware of, you've got Faith Grove, they're gonna be an HOA. If you do it for one, then you do it for another. And then there are a lot of other organizations that are going to want to use Hopkins Hall for your church. And then you're gonna not be able to charge at all. So I would like you, I'm opposed to it, I would like you to consider declining their request.
Thank you. I also have a blue card from Charlie Bishop.
I just filled out cards, so I would be raising my hand all night, so I'm good.
Good, okay. Any other public comments on this agenda item? Hearing none, any commissioners want to make a motion about this? I think we've kind of reached a consensus.
I think we let Jeremy take it back to us to see if they want to switch to City Hall or not.
I think in response to our last speaker, I think setting a precedent for any HOA, I think the thought process is correct. We don't know how many we'll have in the future, but I think if we have space available that fits the venue, and we can offer that to an HOA, although they are private and they don't have anything to do with the city, they actually do have something to do with the city. There's things the city requires of them, and they meet with their people that live in their area to help them fly. So as a kind of friendly municipality, I would like to see the opportunity to create a space. I do agree with that. It's all is our dainty little gym, where this is more of a bulldozer here. It's still an old building, we still have to take care of it, but I think it works for them because we have space, because other meetings have already scheduled that take precedence, and they can work their schedule around it. I think we would do the same for any other HOA in the future. So I'm going to need to look at that.
Thank you. Yes, as a city, I think we do want to be very good neighbors with the HOAs. Absolutely. We want to work with you at all times. We don't ever want to work against you, especially on something like this. We might be at odds over some negotiation somewhere down the line. This ain't it. We want you to be happy. Okay.
So do you need a motion?
No, I don't believe so. I don't need to do it. Item 6B, approval of resolution 2022-02. Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Mayor, in addition, this particular resolution has been requested by the state of Florida as evidence of the approval that we have for the submission of an application for $800,000 for new meters in our water system. The application is being put together by Florida Rural Water and will be submitted to DEP in Tallahassee. There are a series of requirements that need to be included in the package. One of them is this particular resolution, which is your approval of submission of the package and your support for the activity.
Do we, I was gonna say, we do need to have that read again, don't we?
You don't have to read resolutions.
Let's see.
But you said 2022-02.
That's what it says in my agenda, that does not
You said
sound
there
right.
was a numbering issue. You know the number?
Where, we can move it.
So what's the resolution 20-22-02 that dealt with requiring ethics classes for the boards and committees? That was done in March 24th.
We'll make it 03.
Okay.
I know this one says question mark.
That's what I said.
Well, give me a question mark.
Resolution number 22-03, or whatever it is. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lake Helen, Florida, relating to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection at DEP, State Revolving Fund, SRF, adoption of the water facility plan for the implementation of water meter AMI replacements, improvements, effective this date.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-03?
Motion to approve.
I think they need to change numbers 22 and 3 was already used. The last one used on the list is 22-06. If you want to get back to the number, this would be 07.
That's ordinance, resolutions.
Oh. Okay, 3.
So we're gonna stick with 3. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Commissioner Basso, a second from Commissioner Eckert to approve resolution 2022-03. Any discussion? Hearing none, all questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. I think that's a big step for the city. Thank you. Agenda item 7, acceptance of bills paid report. I have a motion to accept the bills as presented. Or discussion about them.
Make a motion to accept the bills, paid report as presented.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Eckert, second from Commissioner Rutledge to accept the bills paid report as it is. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 8A, approval of 2 contracts for engineering based on the CCNA selection process. Mr. Administrator, this is a fun.
We've gone through the process, as the mayor and mayor of the commission dictated by state law called Competitive Negotiation Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act. It is a very rigid process. You basically advertise for qualifications, applications are made, it's reviewed by a staff committee can make recommendation for public hearings or can turn them directly over to the commission. In this particular case, we only had 2 submittals. One was from an engineering firm, Holland Incorporated, which is where our city engineer traveled to from ECT. And he was staying in the same location, so he basically, for our communication purposes, remains where he was for the long time with the city. We also are recommending, so we're recommending we enter into a contract with this new employer, which is called POM, P-O-M-T, Incorporated. It is an engineering firm headquartered out of Atlanta, regional headquarters in Jacksonville, and the operation that they're associated with is in East North Beach. The second firm is called CPH, It is a engineering firm in Sanford. They have good recommendations and done work throughout the state. And in this particular case, just for the benefit of everyone, this is not a dollar commitment to anybody. This is simply establishes a framework under which if we have a project to put to an engineer, we have the selection of this firm or that firm, and they all have dollars per hour for their various levels of engineers and management types. And then you negotiate how many hours it would take for each of the positions to equal the dollar value of the bottom line. So it's a structure more than it is any sort of bid. It simply allows a framework if you want an engineer to have this particular process of acquiring that service. Now, there are also exceptions. Projects less than 25,000 don't have to go through this process. Major studies don't have to go through the process. But almost every city that I know in the county certainly goes through the CCNA process just so they have fulfilled that paperwork obligation. They have them certified, qualified. So if you ever want to use it for a project, that process is already taken care of and started from there. And again, you cannot give engineers, surveyors, architects, any of those professions. They all have to go through the CCNA process. And then again, if you want to hire them, we can go to City Hall, for example. We would have to go through a negotiation session with one of the two that you've already selected. And if you don't like either of those, you can't do the third one, we go through the elaborate CCNA process all over again. But we can still do that. It really keeps it all above board.
Thank you.
We have a motion from the commission to approve the engineering contracts with POND and POND and CPHD.
My thought process in, this is a tool to help facilitate the actual, and we will have an opportunity as we go forward with each individual and to the yay or nay, if you will.
Absolutely. Both, you'll have options both as to firm and you'll have options as to dollars. And starting with option, first of all, for the project. That's your first step, and then which firm you want to handle it, and then negotiate. And there's no committal of any dollars. This is just a structure in which you have to operate and select.
Rebecca said, the law requires that anytime you hire an engineer, architect, a landscape, whichever surveyor, you're required by law to go out and get a bid. And there's an exception for continuing contracts. So you go out and you go get a bid for continuing contracts, and the intent of that is to prevent a local government from having to go out to bid, formal bid on every single thing. So there's contracts up to a certain, projects up to a certain dollar amount, studies up to a certain fee amount, or work of a specified nature. I mean, there's no dollar limitation there. And the dollar amount has been going up. I think the dollar amount of the project now is $4 million. So if you have a project that doesn't exceed $4 million, you don't have to go out through the formal bidding process. You can go and select somebody who you've selected through the CCNA, through the continuing contract. It is still makes it so we don't have to go through and do a bid every single time you have.
But it does not preclude us from doing so because it's not.
If you want to, you can go out anytime you want. But if you get a real big project, that you get a $5-10 million project, then you unless it's work of a specified nature, it falls into that category, then you wouldn't have to go out to bid under the CCNA. And so that's all competitive negotiation. This is just a process by which you do it one time. There's a selection process, you go under contract, and then when you have these routine, smaller engineering type work you need to have done, you then have a contract in place that you go and you contract with them and have the pricing and everything. And Lee's correct, there is no, there's no money being spent right here. This is just putting people in place to provide services.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Vasso, a second from Commissioner Rutledge to approve the engineering contracts with Pond and CPH Inc. Any discussion? I see Commissioner Everett.
On the scope of work, I don't know if it was a typo in this or not, under section F. One of them requires observation by resident inspector, the other one requires observation by inspector resident in the state of Florida. Don't they both have to be in the state of Florida to make the contracts equal?
Yes. Yes.
But I think you said to make the contracts equal, the contracts don't have to be equal.
Well, so the two scope of work's the same.
And we have, look back a little bit, we have been with ECT under continuing contracts since 1988. That particular firm's name, ECT, was only since somewhere in the 2000s. But one of the predecessor firms was our continuing contract, that we purchased of that firm, and we purchased from other firms. So we've been under a continuing ECT contract, and incidentally, we still are under continuing ECT contract. This is not wipe them out. We have them as a third option. They did not submit qualifications this time because they don't have an engineer that they believe in the area would be their qualifications. So that's unfortunate, but they still technically are under the
And the reality of it is, we are in state Florida, so they both mean the same thing.
Yes, yes. And you have, being a resident inspector doesn't necessarily mean you have an engineer. They have construction inspectors with engineering firms that are not PEs. Or you can simply, you can have a PE for very large one. Probably be glad to do. Yes, they have to be within the state of Florida. Just because we have a section between president and vice.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I say motion carries, I do have a blue card. Did you want to? Wait, okay. I know. Sorry. I'll try to get you in the line, the right side. Okay, motion carries. Unanimous. Item 9A, new business, adoption of ordinance 2022-06 on first reading.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, the last meeting, you received a request from the Historic Preservation Board. And they asked that certificates of appropriateness that were approved by the commission have a life expectancy and a closing date to that expectancy. As we've gone through the last time, they were good for a certain limited of time, and then the commission, on reviewing one particular one, agreed that it should not have a life expectancy, and the staff interpreted that we all would not have to have it. And the Historic Preservation Board felt that it should have some closure to that, so that COA issued for a project in a residential area 5 years down the road could be utilized when perhaps the code changes, the pattern code changes, or significant changes in the membership of the HPB. And so they did request that there was some time frame limit. You asked us to come back with an ordinance, which we had, that mirrors the request of the HPB, basically saying they want to do it for 15 months We did modify that slightly by saying that the life expectancy of 12 months with 3 additional months that I could grant administratively with cause. So that's really what we did. We have to go through 2 readings. This is the first reading. Second reading will be after advertisement. And then we do the next meeting. Yeah, I'm not sure. It could either be in August or September. Because we have a very short window between now and August 4th. That's, okay. Sorry, that's it.
Does this need to be read by title or ordinance? Okay. Would you like to do so, sir?
Sure. Ordinance number 2022-06, by title only for first reading. In order to the city of Lake Elm, Florida, amending section 5.05.14, procedure for a certificate of appropriateness review, establishing that a certificate of appropriateness is valid for only 12 months, and providing city administrative authority to extend the validity for an additional 3 additional months, under certain conditions, providing for legislative findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
Thank you.
I have a motion. Make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-06. I'll second.
A motion from Commissioner Eckert, a second from Commissioner Basso to approve ordinance 2022-06. Any further discussion?
It's just a housekeeping, the word additional is in the sentence. That's an additional 3 additional months. We have. Yes, additional. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I didn't.
I'm sorry, it's a housekeeping, the word additional is in the sentence.
Oh,
Did you have a?
no, I was just gonna say, we discussed pretty well last time. And
Okay,
I think it's self-explanatory.
I agree. I will call the question then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. At this point, we'll move into our quasi-judicial hearing for a certificate of appropriateness. Are there any ex parte communications that need to be brought forward? None here? None. I have not had any either. Hearing none. We'll open the quasi-judicial hearing, and we have items A through I before us, all set for approval by the Historic Preservation Board, with some conditions on a few, but I believe those have been discussed with the homeowners. And do I have a motion? I do not. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the quasi-judicial certificate of appropriation for items A through I as recommended by the HPP, including the conditions they recommended.
Second.
A motion from Commissioner Basso and a second from Commissioner Eckert to approve recommendation from the Historic Preservation Board, along with noted conditions for items A through I. Any further discussion? Anybody want to speak up on any of these items or certificates of appropriateness or whatever you want to call them? We got people doing stuff. Y'all want to talk about it? No. I got it. Thank you for that, Ms. Morales. And thank you, Ms. Morales, for all the good work you've done presenting this to us. Very good work.
Thank you.
We appreciate the board and appreciate you. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, this was very easy to understand, so I appreciate it.
That closes our quasi-judicial hearing. Thank you very much. Now we've reached public forum. I have 2 yellow cards One from Jeremy Davidson.
Meeting Chairman Davidson, 410 West Michigan Avenue. Now that we have solved the burning issue of where the homeowners association is going to hold its meetings, I do have another topic I wanted to address again in this venue, and that is the problem of excessive speeding on our city streets. It is a danger to pedestrians, children, pets, bicycles. And I first emailed Commissioner Eckert about this issue in July of 2021, asking what can we do about this. I have had a letter signed by more than 70 residents in my neighborhood and throughout the city that was sent to Administrator Eckert, asking for this to become a priority for the city. I have had face-to-face meetings with Commissioner Eckert and Mr. Eckert, where ideas were discussed and recommendations were made for where could we put additional stop signs, and we should do a better job of posting the speed limit and enforcing the speed limit, which is not currently posted in my neighborhood at all. I have come to this body on multiple occasions with neighbors, and I know other people have spoken up about it as well. Myself, neighbors, have spoken to the police department about it and asked for better enforcement. And a year into this, nothing has changed. And it is, I can't stress enough, for the children in my neighborhood to cross the street to play is a death trap. And the cars are not going 100 miles an hour, but if they're going 45 miles an hour through a dense residential neighborhood, it's unacceptable. And I'm
Frustrating.
someone to explain to me why this can't get addressed. There are significant other issues and priorities of the city, and I understand that, and they're complicated to solve. This is not one of those issues. This is easily solved and well within the purview of the city, the Public Works Department, the Police Department, and it is a safety issue for children and pedestrians. So if someone can help me understand why nothing has been done.
I think in my recollection, last time we discussed this, I thought we threw it back on you and the police chief, because to me, it was a monetized thing. It wasn't whether we needed it or not, we needed it. It was monetized. What exactly are we gonna do, where are we gonna do it, and what's it gonna cost? And, I don't have we had that meeting with the police chief and,
We have the police chief here this evening, but before, every city street in the state has a speed limit set, unless it is changed by the commission, of 30 miles an hour. And other than that, it should be, if you want to lower it, lower it down to 25. And that's the state statute. The difficulty, and let me just elaborate first a little bit, we have been out doing radar monitoring of traffic, with written citations. As you probably would guess, particularly in the woods, there are cut-throughs going to Ivy Pond. Almost all the people who we do stop or issue citations to are not residents of Lake Helen. They're dropping kids off, picking kids up. I would seriously doubt that any of them are driving at excessive speed as a matter of practice. I'm sure there's always that one clown who's out there and be a jerk. But, you just find that time when that person is a jerk is not easy. We have one police officer on duty at any one time, 24 hours a day. On occasion, we have two on duty. So it's a cat and mouse game to circus. Finding the right time, the right place to catch the people who are, not paying attention to our community when they come from another community. We do have signs, we place signs at 25 miles an hour. Right now, there are signs at a few locations, 30 miles an hour. There's some 25, obviously, based on the comments, we're not paying attention to those.
There are no speed limit signs in my neighborhood.
But there are,
Maine.
Pennsylvania or something.
yeah, the chief would know, exactly where located, but I know the chief is also investigating. And we talked last time about getting the automatic speed
Yes,
signs. The aluminum ones, you get a large cart, a little thing you need to haul around. Again, that just says you're speeding. Most people probably, if they are speeding, know they're speeding. So if you're gonna speed, especially if it's there to actually enforce it, it's not gonna do much good. The same thing though, we have signs that are much less expensive, that are $1,200 a piece versus $2,500 a piece, that are permanent on in neighborhoods, and they will tell you the speed that you're going, the violations, if any, that you have. But second, the last thing I mentioned, we talked this, people have perception issues when it comes to speed. When you're standing in a curve and you see a car going by you, you almost invariably guess the speed is higher than the actual speed. And they have title go 30 miles an hour by state law within the subdivision. Now, a lot of people think that's too fast in a residential neighborhood with little kids. That's what they're entitled to do. You could lower it to 25, and you tend to, but there is speed that they are entitled to travel at. Now, the wood still has their roads. They're liable for the maintenance of the roads. They are public rights of way. And in an extreme measure, they have asked to take those roads back and make them private rights of way. Which means they would still have to maintain them if they're doing now, but they would cease to be public roads. They could put gates on the entrances and exits. They could put up speed limits they would think practical. They'd have to do their own enforcement, but gates and bumps, they can make it an area that would be very difficult to traverse through. And that's usually the issue, that when you do things like that, people who live there feel inconvenienced to the point where they'll complain. But in that case, they would complain to the HOA, not the city, it would be private roads.
Yeah, I don't think that's the solution. And I know I don't want to be sitting up here when a kid gets hit and then try to explain it to their parents. So I do know there are certain devices, whether they're speed tables or whether they are the flashing signs with it, because those flashing signs, both of those two function. They work well. Just regular stop signs, regular speed limit, any of the ones that flashing lights that are associated with them, we're predisposed to have our stomachs grab when we see flashing lights. Just what we do. So to me, I would like to work with someone at the queue and let's pick the area that we, because I'm not a sign guy. I don't like when we litter our part of beautiful countryside with signs everywhere, sign. Anyway, but on the same token, there are probably some certain areas that we can do something that will have a dramatic impact immediately. And I think that's what we should do. What we can do here, because one of the numbers that you told me about was, and I'd rather see the permanent ones rather than the non-permanent ones. You're talking about $1,200. I don't have a problem making a motion to provide X number of dollars to solve this problem and allow you to work with the HOA to put them where they need to be. All we need to do is discuss how much we're willing to spend to assist in this issue.
And how many would be actually help? How many would it take to be actually help?
Right. The first thought that came across my head is if there's 4, it keeps the ticket under $5,000. I would advocate that. That is a far cry. That is cheap compared to what it's going to cost as soon as a child gets it.
The chief and I discussed it, and I think 4 is the number we had in mind originally, to be posted throughout. But we looked at the HOA and go by their observations of where these more frequently occur, right places in those locations. We have a staff meeting tomorrow morning, and I'll make sure that there's more.
Mr. Mayor, do you accept the motion for the city to spend up to $5,000 in traffic maintenance design and charge the city administrator to get with the HOA and the police chief, find the best location for such?
Second?
I want to expand on that just a tad. I think there's other areas of opportunity within the city as well. So I think we need to broaden the scope. And then this is a problem
address it more broadly across the city? Same problem?
Correct. I think there's there is an opportunity. I know that this is an issue that's been brought to us for a specific reason, and I'd like to address that. And I think we need to think a little larger as well.
I was hoping that this would be a baby step in the right direction.
Okay. Great.
Commissioner Ecker, did you want to throw in? Go for it.
Yes, this has been a lot of discussion and a lot of work, and a lot of questions were asked, and I have not received any comments or answers back on any of the recommendations that came out of the multiple meetings that we've had. But as the police chief figured out the traffic flow on adding stop signs into key areas,
I know we discussed it, I'll let him say if he's got recommendations as to locations. And then one item is just coming to the microphone, there's another option, and that's called a speed table, which is a fancy word for those speed bumps. And they are elevated and level and come back. You have drainage issues sometimes that can be dealt with very easily. And they will literally interrupt the flow of traffic to a certain speed. You cannot speed on roads like that. But again, that takes some construction. The signs would be a good first step, a baby step. And if that doesn't work, you wonder more. The speed table may be another way of doing it.
Chief Mullins?
In reference to your question about the stop signs, you're speaking strictly of the Woods Lake Kelly subdivision. Every road has a stop sign. I think the only intersections that are not governed by a stop sign would be north and southbound on Volusia. At Garden, Michigan, Delaware, where east and westbound traffic, north and southbound traffic on Volusia. The only stop sign they have is right there in Pennsylvania, and then they have one at Main Street. All other east-west intersections have a stop sign at every single intersection around it. As far as within the woods of Lake Helen, I'm not 100% sure on the understanding, but are those roads, city roads, we do traffic. We're not gonna let people go in there and speed, do whatever they want. But there is a question on, can we enforce certain traffic laws within those roads? Have those roads ever been adopted by the city? For instance,
The roads are public by plat. We don't maintain them, but they're their roads. I mean, there are roads, and therefore we have every right to enforce any law. But again, the only issue that's outstanding that confuses people is that we're not allowed to spend any other funds on maintenance of those roads. The traffic is a whole other thing. They're rights of way, and everything needs to work.
in this case, and the roads are you referring to the roads within, or are you referring to the roads outside? I have got complaints, but it's been High Street, Pennsylvania, and Main Street, on the summit, which are those roads that surround the woods of Lake Helen.
Yeah, so it's, that helps. Sure.
Thank you.
So to answer the chief's question, specifically in my neighborhood, the primary concern is the north-south roads, so High Street, Volusia, Summit.
Okay.
In my neighborhood.
Sure.
That's where the speeding is most common.
Okay, absolutely. And understand, this just for you to understand, the woods is a small percentage of the roads that we have in Lake Helen. So when we do traffic enforcement, we can't be out there 3-4 hours at a time. We have multiple roads. The majority of our accidents where people get hurt are Main Street, Summit, and Quebec. So we do concentrate, those are those roads that people are going to tear down at 70, 80 miles an hour. So that is where the majority of our traffic control is concentrated. And we are out there doing our citations on a trip in the past year. So we are out there writing citations, the officers are out there doing, and I understand the concern. And it is a Woods problem. It is a Lake Helen problem, it is a Volusia County problem. Personally, I believe it is a nation problem. It's not an excuse. That's not an excuse, but we will be out there.
Understood.
One of the intersections that we were talking about was on Volusia. And we talked about Garden Street, but we felt Garden Street because you've got 2 lanes coming in and 2 lanes coming out, merging into 2 lanes both ways, that, the stop sign was better placed, I think, than next door end would have been this year.
Delaware would be perfect.
For Delaware,
Delaware would be.
because Gardner's got that.
Yeah, or Michigan would be perfect for that one particular, one in Pennsylvania.
Do adding stop signs require ordinances, or is it simply something that staff can do? Or do we even, obviously, do we have to go to the state?
The city attorney says it's, staff prerogative.
Staff prerogative?
Staff prerogative, obviously, with your approval. But informal.
You would have to approve the budgetary aspects of it, but I've never seen stop signs and speed limit signs come back to the governing body for approval.
I know that the speed itself, we would have to
The speed
appeal.
itself is different.
Yeah, okay. So we have
And if they go to speed tables, if you want to keep it aesthetically pleasing, I happen to be able to drive over one down off of Lee Road behind the American Legion State Office. It's actually made out of cobblestone, and it is pretty solid, and it looks very nice for that neighborhood. If they, you know, you can get the ones that just black and yellow that bolt down, and you can make them, it actually looks a little bit more appealing, so. Depending on what you want to put into them.
Ones I'm familiar with are actually 6 feet to 8 feet wide. And nice. They're really not uncomfortable, but they do force you to slow down a little bit. If you don't bump you all, bang, hit that thing.
And this one was two of them, one for both lanes, with a little gap. I mean, there wasn't enough gap, no matter what, part of the car was going to have to go over the speed bump if they tried to get it.
I'm sure those are strong.
Well, we have lots of different types of things being discussed. We do have a motion without a second on the table to approve $5,000 towards the signs, which were quoted about $1,200 expense. So about approximately 4 of those. Do I have a second to that motion?
Now I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Basso, a second from Commissioner Rutledge, to approve $5,000 towards the expenditure of speed limit signs, which have flashing, radar control, traffic control signs. I don't know a better way to put it. We can come up with a nicer name if you have the actual name. Maybe look at it in minutes. Any further discussion from commissioners? We may want to amend this or whatever, we can do that.
I just have a quick question. Does the 5,000 include tax?
I was working off the 1,200 times.
We generally don't pay tax.
Yeah, we would.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wasn't sure.
And we're assuming that also put them in for free.
We already, we have posts and gaps in Harbor, but those are inside.
Okay.
So that's not a problem.
I do have some,
I just wanted to bring up, in case it was not thought of, but the intersections of Delaware and Volusia and Pennsylvania and Volusia are high areas because we do have the playground and the basketball court right there. So those are, that particular location between those should be a stop still. So that way there is no speeding from one to the other. It's a, should be a private.
you're asking for potential stop signs there?
Four-way.
Four-way.
Yeah, just because of the playground and the basketball court for children program.
I think
That's the main reason why we chose that in our discussions, because of the playground.
sure. So that would be an additional item you could look at, staff could look at with the police office, police chief, as to whether that would be appropriate.
If you would like us to put,
Sure, thank you, Mr. President.
if you'd like us to put them there, we can, with your blessing, go ahead and use that.
I think the procedure should be, that city administrators will work with the police chief in that particular area where there's an HOA. make sure that, that you run by what we'd like to do with them.
Sure.
I just think that's working with people rather than just telling people what you're going to do. I just think it's a better option.
And I agree that we don't need to decide on our stop sign. Do that up here in a political setting as opposed to have professionals work on that. I think it's more appropriate for y'all,
Yes.
as professionals, to make those choices. I tend to, discussion on the motion at hand, I tend to agree that we should maybe expand this throughout the city a little bit more. I don't want to be, that's a precedent, I need that. I don't think that we should necessarily be working exclusively in the woods. I think some of this spreading around the city a little bit more would be appropriate.
I agree with you and Commissioner Rutledge
Yeah.
on this particular topic.
The placement of those signs again, could be maybe left alone. And if we need more than that, come to this next commission meeting. Say, hey, these are working. Let's throw in a few more. If they are.
We could amend it to let the $5,000 take care of this particular situation, but also charge the police chief and the city administrator to look at townwide.
Well, we do back on the budget for signs in general, so, we appreciate the extra, probably the cover, it's always my sanitation. And it's most important to have your authorization and your blessing there. So we're not short of money, it's already appropriate.
Oh,
And if it would fit within the purchasing budget. So we understand the direction, and that's,
okay.
we'll still take a motion, but take a lot.
Well, we have a motion on the table, to augment the sign budget by an additional $5,000, and to start in this direction. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries unanimously. We'll get some signs on the way. It is a good first step. We know it's just a first step. We may spread them a little around the city. Definitely want to have them on those key areas. And we'll also look at stop signs at those places mentioned, both in the woods and not in the woods. I think that's a very appropriate thing to look at.
Stop signs up on people.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you.
Do we need a motion to charge the city administrator and police chief to get together and give us a look citywide?
I think if we just ask you to report back to us, if y'all,
We'll do that.
is that what you're looking for? Make sure we do get a report back at the next meeting. If we, I don't know how long it'll take to get those things in. Probably going back order, and we'll get them next April.
I think the planning probably is quicker than the actual action to get done, but it's got to start there.
Okay, we have, let's see, additional, we're still in public forum, I got lost in my agenda. I have a yellow card from James, 224 West New York.
I just want the commission to be aware of the flushing of the meetings. Department of Health contacted Lee and let him know it is illegal for Austin and city employees to be flushing hydrants. You gotta be licensed and everything. They are not. They are not allowed to be flushing hydrants. Told Lee about it. There's videos, there's pictures, and he's still out doing the same thing again, flushing meetings. Department of Health already told them they ain't allowed to do it. They continue to do it. And I will be letting the Department of Health know again, it's still going on. They cannot do it. Y'all need to be aware of it, that it's illegal. And they can be fined for it. Not the city, but they can. It needs to be taken care of.
Thank you, James. Do you care to address that now, or?
We have investigated that. We don't know of any regulation required by the Department of Health, neither does U.S. Water.
I got an email. I'll be one for that.
Please.
To do anything in any distribution system, it is up to the discretion of the license holder. And the license holder for the city would be U.S. Water. You do not have to be present at every time a hydrant is opened or even meters installed. But they being the licensee and responsible for it, that's true. They don't have to be physically present. You want to have certain people do it without having license. Unless they can go in the direction of license holder. That's our information, that's the not we're going to probably not do.
Thank you. Okay. That is all the yellow cards I have for public forum. Move to commission reports by zone. Ms. Rutledge?
Thank you. I wanted to bring up, I think a while back, maybe a couple of years, there was talk of a social media policy. And I'd like to maybe reopen the discussion. The last copy was quite in depth, and I think that maybe why it wasn't approved. But I'd like to maybe modify it where it's a little more open-ended and or start a discussion surrounding that. And if you'd be agreeable to directly staff to putting something together for us to look at and consider for next meeting.
Gentlemen, other commissioners have any thoughts on the social media?
It's very interesting to bring up because one of the topics that I'm going to bring up. My daughter sent me a draft by a journalist that, for lack of not being able to have the ability to paraphrase exactly what the title was, but something in the neighborhood of, why people have been so stupid since 2010. And I'm going to make it available to the city so anyone can get it and read it. But the context was basically Mr. Zuckerberg and other companies like that who have created a social media outlet. One of the things that social media has done is it gave people a voice that typically did not have one. And not that people shouldn't have a voice, they should. But the problem comes in when those of us that take the time to sit down and talk to one another face to face, we learn more about the person that we want to find common ground with by body language, by being in the same space together. And when you sit behind a monitor and you are protected in your home, you will say certain things that you may not necessarily say if you're in the same space. This was exacerbated by the fact that they also created vehicles where all you have to do is push a button and you can pass the message on without any particular thought behind what it was other than it agreed with your narrative. And there are certain things that behaviorally you are predisposed to do. And when you couple those things with social media, open-ended social media, it has created this great public divide. And I think that it would really be in everyone's best interest to read the article, have an understanding what it is. I would have never thought in my lifetime that I would be suggesting that we ban something because it's not good for us. But if there's ever one thing that has been destructive to our civilization, it is social media. Because it stops people from learning the art of compromise. And, but anyway, I'm not real good. You guys know how great I am at using these things. Somebody here could teach me how to pass this message on to Dominique so she can share it with me when we're here too. But I found it compelling. And, yeah.
Mayor, I could probably address a little bit more on the policy that we did before. At the time, it was, this still really is, but it was more prevalent. And the League of Cities put out 4 model ordinances for social media policies that have been adopted by 4 different cities. And so we kind of took what I thought were the best of each one of those policies, came up with a policy, submitted it to the city, and the mayor at the time wanted to work on big issues. We were very much into social media, and we never finalized it. But I do have the last version. It's not, we don't have to start over from scratch. I have the last version that the city had. I could get that to Lee and Dominic, they can disseminate those. And it's there's issues when you get into social media, the issues that Commissioner Basso brought up. My perspective is, it's public record. Is one issue. These social media posts are public records. And as I sat down with each one of you and talked and reflected, is it doesn't have to be a city site. If you're reading your personal site, you get somebody puts a social media post up there that is related to city, it could be a public record that needs to be forwarded to the city. So that's really one of the biggest things that we have to deal with, is to deal with making sure that we maintain that public record when we have social media. And then you get into, it's a public forum. How do we regulate what can be said on a city level site? That's difficult to do. And maintaining the First Amendment issues. That there are limits to what can obviously go on there. You can take down things or ban people if they abuse the privileges. But there's rules. You got to lay out rules on how all that works, because there is a First Amendment issue. But I can get the last version that I have and get that to Dominique and Lee, and they can disseminate. We can go from there.
Could you email that to each of the commissioners?
Yeah, I can give it to them, and they can.
Something to read early rather than read it just when we get our agenda packet.
Yeah, I know, we did send it out immediately, but if I have everybody's email, I don't know what usually, if I have.
Dominique.
I can send it to Dominique, she can send it to you all. Not just part of the agenda well in advance. And my suggestion would probably be, don't try and tackle that at a commission meeting, set up a workshop on that issue, because that's it. Unless everybody's comfortable with it, and I'm not a tech guru either. So I still remember that when we did it and I was working on it, I wish we could, I thought social media was a great way for the city to disseminate information to its citizens. And if we could disable all the ability to make comments, it would have solved a lot of the stress issues that seem to be going on. It's a great way to communicate, a great way to disseminate information, but the dialogue that occurs sometimes in these social media posts is just, I think what Commissioner Basso said, wouldn't dare say that to my face. You know, we feel tight to send it out to the world. But my recollection is we can't do that. We're not able to disable the comment function, but maybe we can. That would be my recommendation. If we can, use social media all we can to get out information to the public about what's going on, whether it's emergencies or events or whatever. But comment somewhere else. Don't comment on our social media. So. But I will get that information to you.
Thank you.
I'll leave that.
Yeah, the new setups on it, you can set up the site to where it's information out, nobody can respond back to it.
So there's no comment features now? That would be a great thing. And I know one of the things that happened, and I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know anything about that, but the city had a Facebook page, and I think Becky was the.
She had her name attached.
Yeah.
You have to have a name.
You have to have a name attached to it, so, yeah, so when Becky left, we no longer had a name attached to our Facebook page, so we don't have a Facebook page, is what. So it can't be the city, like, nobody associated, it has to be a person. So,
I think they make that change that too, I'm not sure, I really want to check it.
I'm not telling you that's, I'm just saying.
They made a lot of changes in the past couple of years, so.
Mr. Rutledge, is that
kind of get the ball rolling in the direction you want it to.
Yeah, I'll get that. Lee and I have actually reports to talk about it.
What I'd like to do is not start out by setting a workshop, but just look at it next meeting.
Because that's going to continue going.
Well, okay.
It's like the one I'm working.
Okay, that'll be next, so you're not up yet. So we'll look forward to discussing that more. Do you have additional items?
That's it, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Everett.
I know we discussed this before, matter of fact, I think it was last month, on the septic tanks issues in Lake Helen. And you made a comment about having a workshop on it, but nothing was ever done. So I make a motion to get a workshop on septic tanks and the new state requirements for the spring aquifer region.
Well, I'll push back a little and say that nothing happened. We do have a workshop coming up, next budget workshop, and I did speak with the city administrator about having a dual function workshop and having such a thing being part of that. Inviting the St. John's Water Management person, I think it was,
County health.
county health department person to come and be at that, present at that meeting. So you weren't entirely report, it just hadn't happened yet.
Well, I would hate to have it keep on going, and the state coming in and saying, okay, you guys don't have nothing in your ordinances, so you will do it our way.
I'm saying we want to be on top of it.
So I can quit beating that drum, you're gonna stick it up for me? I started this stuff 13 years ago talking about it. So I appreciate you taking it up.
The glacier has moved from here to here. Did you have anything additional?
Just if anybody wants to go to another Legion ceremony on July 25th at 6 p.m., we're going to be installing new officers. So Lee being a member, you're especially invited.
I'm good.
What was that date?
July 25th.
25.
It's a Monday, yeah.
At what time?
6 p.m.
Thank you. Commissioner Bassel?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we're also planning an awards dinner for the Legion's first responders that were chosen from 21, 22 cycle. We just haven't picked a date yet, so I'll let you know now. We were planning on it soon, but our commander went out of town, and he's got the list of names, so we don't know who to send the invitations to.
Thank you. Commissioner Bassel?
To follow up what I started a minute ago, I believe I successfully sent this
Yes.
message to
Yeah.
Dominique. And she's going to successfully send it to our city attorney to make sure that before we start disseminating the information into the universe, that we don't put something out there that we get sued for. And then, but I think most of you will be enlightened by this. I know I was, and I already was thinking along the lines of this particular report. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to that social media thing. I'm kind of the opinion, we're not really discussing it now, but I'm going to take it prerogative. I'm of the opinion that if we start trying to redefine the First Amendment, we might get in over our heads pretty quickly.
You can't redefine the person.
Well, I know, that's kind of my point. Even fine tuned, I don't even want to try and think it. So anyway, but we do want to have rules that we govern ourselves with, and I think that's what you're seeking.
Yes.
We can govern ourselves as a body just by agreement, not necessarily by enforcing anybody, making anybody shut up, but just by having rules of collegial service within the city. We had a meeting for the mayor's report. We had a meeting today at the county chambers meeting with the ECHO
the Echo Board, and they were looking at whether or not to continue to grant with the Cultural Arts Center. And we went in prepared, we thought, and we were. But they were also a little bit more loaded for bear than I expected. Mr. Cook was a little more accurate on the feeling there than I was. But because we were there with quite a few people, and people that were well prepared and passionate about the city, we basically backed them off of doing anything today. They gave us 3 months to come back to them with some of the tweaking that we might try and better meet what they're looking for as a group. That's all I'll say on the record right now. I think it was a good meeting, though. We learned quite a bit about them and about what they expect from us. And off the record later, I'll tell you what I really think. No, I'm just kidding. That next meeting will be on October 13th. So if you want to, if you're curious about that, you can ask somebody in the GEMS organization, or you can ask myself or the city administrator for further information. I'm feeling a little cynical today, so I'm going to shut up. And thank you, sir. I appreciate it. With that, we'll move on to item 13, city administrator reports.
Mayor, members of the commission, the first thing I'd like to ask of you is, Commissioner Eggert did make a motion, there was no second, but it wasn't declared dead, just the minutes, if you could all agree, that's what happened.
It's dead, because it's like a second.
I know,
Motion died for lack of second. I'm not sure I've said that phrase, but it did.
thank you, because what happened, just the discussion started, and we went to what we're gonna do, we forgot to say that thing dead. Thank you, that was a technical one. Couple of things, some of them are important here. Our city's franchise agreement with Waste Pro expired on September 30th. Waste Pro has visited with me, and they suggested they would be visiting with you individually. The decision before the commission is we want to go back out to bid. We have two options. We knew from our present contract to exercise both of those and continue the contract. Now the question is, do we intend to continue that contract once more at a negotiated rate, or do we go back out to bid? City attorney and I have talked with On Coast, just went out to bid. There's some examples from the company of what bids have come back for. And it's not a good picture, for all the reasons that we've all experienced personally, the cost of gasoline, the cost of personnel, the cost of this, the cost of that, just going dramatically crazy. On the other hand, this particular service is paid for by the citizens through a direct assessment. It's not part of the tax base, whatever the assessment is required to pay the bill. I think we need to be cognizant of that, and therefore I'm recommending we go out for bid. And that way we have a clean cost that we then put into the assessment process. And with your blessing, you can do that real quick, because it has to be done by September 30th. So the other option then, again, is to do a negotiated continuation, if that's even possible. I think the city attorney has some suggestions, I think that was.
I just had a thought. Maybe think of it. Their contract ends September 3rd, correct? We're currently going through our assessment process for next year.
Yes.
If we go out for bid, are we going to be able to incorporate any new costs into the current assessment?
Yes, we have until September 15th, I think, to put new assessment numbers into the assessment numbers.
So we really don't have to September 30th, we really have.
We do for the assessment bill, not for the actual.
Okay.
The contract expires, but we got a 2 week thing. You know what I'm saying? We'll get.
I just want to make sure we can go, if we go out for bid or negotiate, we need to make sure we have the cost
into
So
the,
it makes it a new cost of making
into the property, into the resolution, into the property.
Yeah, okay. Basically, our contract has expired and our renewal options have expired. I looked in state law to see if I could find any mandatory requirement that we bid. I could not find it in state law. I suggested to Lee that he contact other jurisdictions to see if they are aware of anything that they, administrative code or something with the DEP that highly recommends that we go out for bids. If we couldn't find anything, then we would have to look to see if the qualifications, there's criteria that you can waive formal bidding and see if this would actually fall under the criteria for formal bidding, that you could waive. If there was an exception, then you would allow you to waive the formal bidding process, and that would be at your discretion to waive. And, you know, I don't think it'll be a sole source, because obviously there's lots of competitors. I don't think there's a uniqueness to the service that would qualify, but I'd have to go back and look at what other criteria. Typically, we have language in there that says, if it's otherwise deemed in the best interest of the city not to go out for bid. And that's kind of a broad catch-all provision that gives the governing body the ability not to go bid if they want to negotiate a price. But I think what the administrator's looking at is which direction do you want to go? And we really probably need to start it, because the discussion Lee and I just had in front of you is something I didn't think about. I just wanted to make sure we've got to get a new rate in place so we can get it into all of our assessment. Because we don't want to have a situation where we have an obligation to pay one rate, but we're only collecting assessment on a lower rate. So we've got to get the new rate set and done in time for the new assessment.
What's the, let's just stop you from putting together, negotiating a one-year contract, so you can meet that obligation at the same time, put it out for bid going forward.
So could you do that?
Yes.
Obviously, if we can, if there's a basis for waiving, an purchasing orders for waiving, and if Waste Pro is willing to,
Yeah.
I'm assuming Waste Pro is willing to negotiate a one-year deal, then, and you can waive it under our purchasing orders, then that is an option.
And interesting enough, Tom Coates, that I looked at, talked with, they had a situation, they put out a bid a year ago, and it was very complex. They had option prices for with recycling and without recycling. Which days, how many days, numbers of days, what material. And it got to the point when we got the bids back, it took them literally months to figure out what the price was or what they wanted. And it came to a point where they were not enamored by the services of Waste Pro, but it came to the point where they did have to negotiate a one-year extension with Waste Pro, and in turn, signing the contract for the next year after that, thereafter with another company. It was even more expensive, but they felt worth it, considering the service demands in place. So there is the opportunity, at least, example of Tom Coates, that you could do a one-year extension. And that may be, and incidentally, good point. One of the things I recommend we go out with it, and I'm not recommending doing any changes in the level of service. The level of service being twice a week service at the curb, unlimited numbers, and we have recycling, and we have yard waste material. Otherwise, we chemical service where we have. Now, if you want to go to a different level of service, once a week, not with recycling, those are things that would seriously affect the value. There's only one city in Bush County that does not do recycling, and that's Deltona. They started about 2 or 3 years ago. Everybody else does recycling. Everybody else does twice a week. I mean, we're in standard with everybody else. So our citizens are used to that. They're comfortable with it. I wouldn't recommend to change that. But we do need to have some direction. Do we want to do a 1-year extension or a longer extension? Negotiated if there's a way that it can be done with an existing purchasing ordinance, or we say we go out to a full bid with that level of service. Very simple question: should we look at numbers back in time and we will feed them to you for adoption, to the public, to the property appraiser, and tax collector for assessment purposes?
I understand that there are, that's the right way to put it, if we can't really throw the numbers out right now as to what the increase might be, because then if we then throw all the numbers on the table and then send it out bid, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. But if we did a one-year extension, it wouldn't simply be dollar for dollar as what we've been paying. There would be a negotiated increase.
I would not think that wastewater would want to do, an extension or existing contract with existing rates. The numbers that they weren't any rates that they would translate into what they would charge us. The cost of tires, as an example, went up 40%. Cost of personnel services went up 43%. It's just dramatic numbers, albeit these are from the people that are selling the service, so, I think a bit of a insult.
But inflation's only at 8-some%, right? Sorry, Senator.
Well, two points of interest. One was that, I'm trying to remember how long ago when they came back to us for an increase, based on the recycling condition. And from what I understand, I don't know what number we're currently paying, but they basically told us we didn't get the increase. They picked the stuff up, we were just gonna wind up in the same place as everything else, it wasn't going to be recycled. So until that gets solved, I don't think we should pay for service yet. Number two, they normally understand what we want. And I think they're in a unique position to be able to give us as good a price as anybody's going to give us. I agree with you, I think we should take it out for bid, just to, hold everyone's feet to the fire. But when we wind up with a product, one of the questions I asked early on was, well, what's the difference in cost when we go to 1 day a week service rather than 2? And basically, your answer was, there is no savings. Because their logic was that you have 20 tons of garbage that needs to be picked up. It doesn't matter if it gets picked up twice a week or once a week, it's going to cost you the same. My argument is, I don't believe that's the case. I believe most people, when they can only put the garbage out once a week, don't create enough garbage. So I don't think the tonnage is the same. And so I would, in the negotiation process, not only with them, but with anyone, appeal to somebody's sense of logic and look at it, realistic. Do I want to go to 1 day? No, I like 2 days a week, but I can make 1 day a week work. But only if it has a significant savings to the people in the community.
Those are all very true statements. One thing that we may not be aware of, the village, which is 200 residences within the city, 1,500 residences, only has collection once a week. And that's my knowledge, there's never been a complaint out there. But different demographics, 1, 2 individuals per household versus 2 or 3.
I do know one thing. If we do go to once a week and the cost does not go down, you're going to have screaming and hollering going on.
No, I understand that.
No, I wouldn't at this time be in favor of going to once a week, just for that very reason. Because the cost of services is going up no matter how you twist it. And, I've always been of the ilk. Hey, look, if you need to charge me $5 more for my sandwich farm, we're going to the best route in the planet. Don't screw with the rest of it. And it's the same sort of thing. You got to charge me more, don't mess with my service. Anyway.
Well, I guess I understand the consensus would be to.
I was going to say, do we have a motion to send this out to competitive bid, or?
Make a motion that we authorize.
Aaron, I'd like to say a word before we make that motion, please.
Um,
I have my hand up for 15 minutes.
Yes, sir, you have. And generally speaking, discussion takes place after the motion. So you will be recognized very shortly, sir. I haven't forgotten.
Save a lot of time.
Commissioner,
Make a motion that we authorize staff to go out and bid for refuse hauling and recycling contracts.
second.
The recycling? Even if they're,
refuse hauling and recycling.
even if they pick up the recycling and then still dumping it out.
The recycling they pick up goes to the recycling center. When the recycling center gets overloaded, the Volusia County hauls it to the dump site. So whether or not it's still people are putting it out for recycling, if the county doesn't have enough contracts to get rid of it, what are we gonna do with it? Store it? Pay billions of dollars to get storage warehouses for it?
I'm not blaming Booth County, I just don't feel like paying for the service that we're hopefully not getting.
But we aren't getting it. They are trying to take it to resell. The problem is China quit accepting our recyclables. That was 90% of what we produce.
You know, where the problem.
And the companies that we've got, there's not enough of them to handle the amount of recycling we do. That's why a lot of the issues are coming to getting rid of recycled material and getting reuse or one-time use materials that break down into compostable materials. So
I don't like it, I'll second the motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Eckert to send the waste collection and recycling out to competitive bid, the city administrator's request. That was a motion by Commissioner Eckert, second by Commissioner Basso. Mr. Coe? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When it comes to garbage, I know I don't. No doubt. Believe it or not, my name's Alan Cook, 792 Poetry Lane. You see the state, October 1st, I was one of the first commissioners that put this out for bid with waste rubbish. And I've dealt on the second time, and I've done the third time. And you know what? When the first time came, we said, no, we gotta get up prices, and we gotta get everything else. Well, we went out and got prices for 4 towns in our area. And there was no comparison with the prices, what Waste Pro was giving us compared to another. Now, one of the towns had a garbage company, and we checked into it, and they were not reliable. Trucks broke down all the time, this couldn't happen, this couldn't happen. And if you see something in our town, whereas if they lose the truck, they'll send another truck in from somewhere else to do it. Now, the next thing is, I've gone through this, and Rick's right. Garbage is picked up by the ton. Doesn't make any difference, volume-wise or nothing. When they leave that truck, go to that landfill, that's what we're paying for, by the ton. So it doesn't make any difference if you're doing a pickup once a week or twice a week. But here's the difference. The difference is with the garbage that you go out, you don't drive the road on a garbage car. See how much garbage is there. Now, if you cut it to 1 day a week, you know what? A lot of that garbage is going to be laying on the sidewalk and laying next to the garbage cans because it'll be such a volume. This has been this way all the time, all these years. We've had no problem with it and everything else. And I think the biggest mistake is I think it should be negotiated with our employees and everything, with Western, go over it. Now, there's gonna have to be negotiation because of fuel costs and everything else. But you could sit down with them and negotiate with them, okay? And in the meantime, find out what's, like we did, what the prices are around. And then go from there, but sit down, they will work with us and make it work for us professionally. And that's the only thing that I get very annoyed about, that all these years, I was one of the first commissioner that brought it up on this.
I remember going through it on the vision as well.
Yes, that's true. So anyhow, I just think that we should really think before we go out and start all this business stuff. We don't know where we're going.
My pushback to that would be, it's not really pushback, it's just a discussion that I've had, is that this year's increase is going to be significant. I know, we all understand.
It's gonna be sufficient with all other.
I understand, but let me finish my point. because it's a significant increase, our citizens are gonna say, what the heck are y'all doing? And we need to, I think, be able to say, we saw this coming and we put this out to bid and got the very best price we could. We didn't simply negotiate it and let them bump it up this much without really holding their feet to the fire. I think defense, for us to be in a defensible position, we need to go through the bid process, even though I'd rather not. I still think we'll get a competitive bid from Waste Pro. I'm hoping that we do, because they do provide very good service.
Professionalism, and that's what.
It does matter.
With some of these other garbage companies.
And when we have the bid process, when we go through the bid process, we'll know.
I think these people should sit down and negotiate with them, and then make their mind up. It says in August, you guys are gonna decide. Let them do the negotiations between now and our August meeting, and then decide what we're gonna do here. That's what I think.
City Attorney, Scott, if we put this out to bid, are we bound by the law to take the lowest bidder?
You have to have the lowest responsible.
Lowest responsible?
Yeah.
In other words,
You have to have a good reason not to.
we have 4 bidders and Waste Pro is the second lowest bidder. We're not that far off of what, the lowest bidder was. Can we at that time say we've got a long-term relationship with them, we know what the service they provide, et cetera, we choose this one for these reasons? Can we-
And I think Lee and I talked a little bit about it, that the review criteria should include that information and say, look, in addition to the price, we're going to look at your work history, your recommendations, and also work history with the city.
Okay.
And, you know, with prior dealings with the city, so we can take into consideration that. But,
And that's a matter of when we put it out to bid, that verbiage is in there.
yeah, you put them on notice, these are the things we're going to be looking at, and they know, but Waste Pro's their current provider, and they're apparently happy that that is a review criteria, so maybe they gotta make the price that much lower to offset that, make it harder for you to say, well, let's go with Waste Pro because they've done good service, but we're giving up this much money. So that's what
I just want to make sure that's an option available to us.
Yeah.
Any further discussion as to whether or not we should go out to bid?
I just have one question. Do we get a discounted rate when we're not going out to bid for Waste Pro? Do they provide a discount for us not putting out to bid?
I don't think you'll know that. Because, you would have to have both of them. It's not like they say, this is our proposal, if we go out to bid, but we're not 10% off if you don't go out to bid. We're going to negotiate a price, and then we'll never know what they did.
As a matter of fact, one of the reasons they want to talk to you individually is to tell you what their fee, proposed fee would be. But then if you decide to bid, they don't want that number to be broadcast.
In fairness to them.
Oh, yeah, there's no need of that, but it's just what they have to deal with for the bid process, what we have to deal with. It's just, this is a big number, this is more than $300,000 a year. And again, it's 100% paid for by assessment. And so the citizens who see whatever increase, they want to know what we get to guarantee the lowest price, because that's my theory. And I think we need to do everything to make sure we try to get the lowest price as possible. And the sealed bid is, in my view, it's not perfect, but it's the best way to do it.
Mrs. Elizabeth?
Is there a alternate way, rather than do the bidding process, can you request proposals? Is that not as?
Kind of the same thing, and the city administrator has just said that he was the best method would be sealed bid. Ms. Brassard?
Yes, Kelly Price, 616 Strong Street. Last time Waste Pro came in and they discussed the recycling. Some of the things have changed. The plastic going to China, they were full, and that's something that when they have the ability, they can send that. But the glass, the recyclable glass, what does end up being recycled is crushed up and used as ground covering at the landfill, which allows more more trash to go on top, so it might not all of it is being recycled in the traditional form of being made into getting up a glassware, but it is being used to help that coverage. One of the things that they did say, and they recommended, they gave us a list, and items that are recyclable, items that are not recyclable. And one of them that they preferred is to go with the newspapers, is something that they recommended that we do burn if we're doing our burns. So it leaves it out of the landfill and access. Those were some of the things. And I know that the residents were very, starting to get opinionated then about not having our recycling. Even Vice Mayor Connell even said that he wouldn't be up there when we stopped doing our recycling. So it's our duty to be steward for our community and recycling. It's not that part of it. Thank you.
You all ready to vote on this?
Yeah, let's get it over.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for the city administrator to send this out to bid. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Mr. Administrator, you are hereby authorized to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item, oh, I'm sorry. Next item on my portion of the agenda has to do with the second budget workshop. The coordination with our finance director indicates a preferable date of 9 a.m. on Monday, August 8th. It will be after the next council meeting, but official meeting, but 9 a.m. on Monday, the 8th of August, if that's acceptable. You can start, and we'll also put on the health department presentation, if you can obtain that gentleman. For a second.
That's that date with the commissioners. Well, you are slow on that thing, right? August is right after July.
Nice. Yes, sir. Hope you do it too, group day. I know that I have something. When is the city commission meeting on the 4th?
The meeting's on the 4th, the Florida League of Cities on the 11th.
And I need to confirm, because I know that I'm leaving on a Sunday, coming back on Wednesday, and I do not know if it's the 7th or the 14th, and I do not have it in my calendar. Right now, I would say, I think I'm good.
I wish we could, we'll schedule it then. So,
We will.
as of now, make a public announcement that the budget workshop, the next budget workshop will be August 8th at 9 a.m. That'll also be noticed. It's time and back.
Absolutely. We'll do that. There's one other item, Mr. Mayor. Kind of an interesting thing is, good evening. I had a visit from a individual who produces festivals, and she would like to produce a strawberry festival in Lake County, either the very end of February, beginning of next March, and they would ask to do the Question Center, which of course is entirely possible. We do not have a fee established for an activity like that. In the fee schedule, it says to be determined. So we need to connect you with an appropriate fee recommendation. But I thought it was kind of interesting from the standpoint, they expect anywhere between 8,000 and 15,000 people. There's good stretch our parking to the open limits, but I want you to know that that is something we are working on, and we'll report back later as things progress. It could be a significant event in the community. Maybe two seasons. Maybe two. That's it.
What's the name of that thing?
It's just a strawberry festival, I don't think it has a name.
Okay.
Strawberry festival.
There's the Volusia County Strawberry Festival goes on at the fairgrounds, the Beeline Strawberry Festival, Orange City Strawberry Festival, that's on Strawberry Festival. So, we're the festival.
We're just, I thought it was special too, I just wanted to,
Ours is very special.
well, it should be fun.
Okay. I do not have anything additional on my agenda.
Only one additional comment on Rick's thing. I can go a week, every other week on my garbage pickup. That's how much garbage I produce in my house. Every other week, maybe even further.
And see, that's a reprogramming kind of thing, and to me, the thing that precipitates us needing to put this out for bid. I'm a relationship guy, and I like renegotiating and continuing to do things, and we can look at all things being fair out there. You can negotiate a reasonable increase and move forward. We're not in the reasonable times, and we have to answer to the taxpayer, and the taxpayer's gonna wanna know if, when we double their bill, why didn't you put it out for bid? Okay, so let's do that, and answer all the whys. And at the end of it, if we're not happy with the new service, if we want to go, if we can find another vendor next time around, that we can go to a 1 day a week that is willing to give us less of a charge, and it's significant for our consumers, and our taxpayers will be prepared to listen to that at that point.
I've seen 3 different companies within 15 miles of Lake Helen picking up garbage. So if there's that many companies that local, and there's some of them brand new trucks, so whether they bought brand new trucks or if they're painted different name on them, so possibly it's a new company that took over, so they might end up having a different. So finding out what's out there, and then some of the trucks are converting from diesel going to propane and hydrogen, other vehicles on, so they're less pollutant. So, you know, there's a lot of different options out there. See what we can get.
Well, one last call for any public comment?
Cameron, can we have one more public forum?
Yes, we can.
As long as we get done before 9 o'clock, that'll be a record.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is my mother's water. And I went down to City Hall because she paid the bill. I'm looking for a refund because this is completely brown. And I don't think she should have to pay her water bill. She just moved in there. We told her what a great city it is. I went down to City Hall and I asked Lee, we didn't want to hear nothing about it because she lives in the village. I don't care if she lives in the village. She makes the check out to you guys. Her water is still like that every day. So I'm asking you to refund her money for $77, or whatever the minimum is. And that she doesn't pay a water bill till it's fixed.
We don't really have the option as a commission to refund people's water bills. It's, the water utility is really quite strict on
Okay, but
that
are
kind
you
of
saying
thing.
that it's okay that a 75?
No, I'm not saying
days
so.
in this?
I'm not saying it's okay with that. I'm sorry.
This check is made out to the city of Lake Helen. Nobody wants to do anything for these people.
Can I help with it?
Yes, sir.
We did receive a complaint and we did investigate, we notified the builders, and they said they took care of it. I also checked with 3 customers, no customer exhibited any symptoms similar to this. There was no contamination in the water of the other 3 customers. And the amount she wants refunded was not for the water, the meter has to be one of those that doesn't read, so all she has
Well,
paid
regardless,
is just a non-variable cost. She has not paid for the water.
She still has a minimum payment that was for the water that was
It was for.
made out to you guys.
Yes, that's exactly right, but if there is a problem, it's in the prison, it's not in the city, or it's in the private system, which is the village.
But regardless, the check is made out to you. Why don't you guys just do what's right and then battle it out with the dealers? This is a 75-year-old woman. She's a diabetic, she's got medical needs, and if this water gets into a cut or something, damn, she's out. What part don't you get in that?
There are several parts, and we've stated our case fairly plainly as well.
So my mom's gonna keep paying for dirty water?
I do believe we provide good water for the city, I really do.
But I just showed you a picture. Are you
I-
saying that's good?
We don't.
No, I'm not saying that's good, I'm saying,
The investigators looking at.
Well, what does she do in the meantime?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Where does the city's responsibility start and stop?
what's that?
Where do the city's responsibilities start and stop?
She writes a check out to the city of Lake Helen for water.
So the water that comes out of her tap,
Yeah.
the city is 100% responsible.
Well, she writes a check out to you.
And I just asked a question. So the
Well, I
water,
don't know.
well,
If I write the check out, which I do to the city, and there's something wrong with it, I'm coming down to you.
I understand.
You go to a restaurant and the meal is bad, you go and you get the, work it out.
That's not apples to apples. What I'm saying to you is, let's just say at the point where the water gets distributed from the main line to your mom's line. And we test the water right there before it goes into your mom's lines, and there's nothing wrong with the water.
Okay, so is that done?
What I'm saying to you is, would the city be responsible for groundwater coming out of the tap? If before it goes into her water line, it's clean?
Yeah, but why not just take care of the issue and, why should she have?
It's simple, because
She can't get refunded from the villas because the check wasn't made out to that. It was made out to the city of Lake County.
your mom's responsible for the pipes in her house. You're responsible for the pipes in the villas, and the city's responsible for the transmission line to the point where it goes into the villas. What you're asking us to do is to be responsible for private piping. If we can prove to you that the water that goes into the villas is quality water, it meets all of our government guidelines, then we are precluded.
Who's responsible for the meters?
The bills.
the bills provide that in the individual meter. The city provides water to the point, as Mr. Basso said, to
Then
the,
why doesn't she make the check out to the villas? Why does she pay the city?
We provide the billing for the villas, so
So basically, every time I have something to say, it's like you guys never want to hear it, never want to.
No, I want to hear it. I would like, me personally,
If my mother could have been here tonight, she would have, but there's no.
I understand that, Rob. I understand that. And me personally, it makes me want to go out tomorrow and test the water at the point where it goes into the village lines. Okay? And if we can prove that that water at that point is quality and meets all the standards it needs to, then the problem is not with the city. The problem is with the distribution line, either from there to your mom's house or from the curb into your mom's house. I don't.
So if it is you,
Yep.
can you tell him, please, to go and do that, so that we can see what.
Do we have the ability to test the water before it
It
goes
is
in?
being tested smart.
Okay, thank you.
By an operator,
By US water, correct.
licensed operator,
US water is licensed, correct.
and can I get a copy of it?
yes, that'll be
It'll
public.
be a public document.
No, I just want to come down and get it out.
Well, it'll be public.
Public document.
That's the answer is yes.
Fine.
Yes.
So how long does it take to get the report back?
I can give you this one.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. It's still 9:03, but we didn't start till 7:05, so we're still gonna go over. Good night.